agenda is public comments. Do we have anyone sign up for public comments? Nope. Brad, yes.
I'm actually not staying tonight to give you guys your dream and get done. So I actually wanted to come down for two reasons. I think most of you already now met Dr. Alvin, our new planning and zoning administrator. She's been here since the 30th of October, and so a month already. A month goes quite fast when you're having fun. The other thing I came here is I just realize this is the last meeting before Christmas. And as much as I haven't even started thinking about Christmas and my lights yet, I wanted to come down and wish you all a Merry Christmas and thank you for the hard work you all put in this year. It's really much appreciated. I know it was tough at times, being we were under the gun in a couple instances, but I think we took a realistic approach to things you guys did, and we were able to find that middle ground that sometimes we find elusive. So, but I do want to wish you and your families a very Merry Christmas. I hope you get to enjoy it. Hopefully we don't get the terrible weather until after Christmas. So, nowadays you don't know when you're going to get the weather. I mean, we've got blizzards happening in Chicago and other places right now because of one of the things I do for my regular job. So, anyway, I will take a second if you guys had anything you wanted to run past me, but otherwise.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
No. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Merry Christmas.
And same to you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Ladies, guys. I don't know. I use that generic.
I'm sorry.
Just say use, guys.
All of you, no, I don't say use. I never do
Never.
that. Never.
I'm a southerner and I say use, guys.
It's like y'all. I can't do that. Doesn't sound good coming from me.
We're glad you know that.
All right, next item is going to be additions, deletions, and approval of agenda. Maybe you want to add or delete anything?
I noticed that the council member presentation is not on here. Are we doing away with that moving forward?
No, we're not doing away with it. I know I was at 2 council meetings ago, and I thanked everybody for who could attend it, and I kind of said, we've been asking for a while, so we're not asking anymore, but we're happy to entertain any councilman who wants to show up. You kind of push that as much as I can without getting too far. So
And
I think it should still be on the agenda, but it doesn't look like we have anything on the agenda today.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think I'm for it as long as it's of value. I think our goal was to get a pretty good representation from the whole council, and as we've seen, that's not going to happen. So I don't know. I mean, based upon that, I think as long as we're getting valuable information, valuable feedback from the council, then we should leave it on there.
Okay. I agree. I think if anything, at least have it on our agendas every month, whether someone can show up or not.
In case somebody drifts through.
Well, yeah. All right, well, let's add it to our agenda.
And I want to take the blame for that. I think Robin asked me about it, and I said I didn't know of any council member that was coming to your meeting, and so it didn't.
Oh, no problem. But I think it'd be a good idea. I'm just going to put that on the agenda every month. And if someone's here, it's great. If not,
Okay.
we'll just log in our minutes that no one showed up. Okay?
I wonder if it doesn't put the council members on the spot if they have nothing to say and yet we're asking them to address the planning board. I think the reason that we wanted them to come was so they could see what we're doing, right? That was one of the reasons. And, if they had something to share with us or add questions or whatever, that they could do that. But that could be one of the issues is they do not have anything to say. And the same ones are coming over and over again. So they certainly probably don't have anything to say on a month-to-month basis. Maybe if they could just come and sit and not have to speak. I don't know.
Good point. I think, as I understand, if I recall, the reason for it was for a two-way communication.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so we may have something we want to say to council, but there's
That's
not a
true.
forum for us to say that in a
Yeah.
council meeting. Right?
That's
I mean, to have a communication back and
So
forth.
we may have a question for them.
Right, that we want to have on record as
Yeah.
opposed to just email or calling.
Yeah.
Or have a
Makes
general
sense.
group discussion about a topic.
Yeah.
So that they may not have something, but I hope they appreciate the fact that we may have a question for them.
We
And
reach
that's
out.
what I've tried to explain to them, is I wanted, open up more lines of communication between council and planning board.
At least if we put it on the agenda, there's a spot where they can speak. Instead of
Good point.
Instead of interrupting, it's there.
Yeah.
So if they want to show up, if they're wandering by, need something to do, and they come in, then there's a spot for them.
I agree.
But, we know what the colors are, and we've already seen what happens.
Well, how do you guys feel about adding that to our agenda? So it's on our agenda for this tonight.
I don't think we need to add it tonight.
I don't think we need that, as long as we keep it on there in the future, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I make a motion, we accept the agenda as is.
Second. Jump, come.
All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to number 4, approval of minutes from October 22nd meeting. Is there anything on this? Good.
I do. Was there much discussion about House Bill 589? That was the only bill that was mentioned in the presentation by, the speaker on solar facilities.
I don't recall.
Okay.
That House bill was replacing the old one that was expiring and sunsetted out, and they were getting rid of some of the, what do you call it, the subsidies. The initiative for the companies, for people that put up the solar.
Okay.
That really had nothing to do with what we were talking about, the solar generating plant. That was all about subsidies and what's it called?
Tax breaks.
Tax breaks, that's what it was, tax
Yeah.
breaks.
Okay. The only reason I ask is looking into that, there was a lot of dissension. It passed 66 to 41 with 11 people abstaining. And I didn't know if there was a reason for that or if there was any discussion that went along with that. Just my curiosity. Second question. The time that the meeting ended, is that right?
11 something.
Can, with that being the case, can we add another item to maybe the agenda? Make it 7B. And let's discuss time blocks on some of the, discuss putting time blocks on the agenda.
I'm okay.
I would assume that nobody expected this meeting to run until 11 o'clock. Okay. And just based upon what I'm reading in the minutes, the majority of that was the presentation by the speaker, and I'm fairly confident that he wasn't aware of what time schedule he had allocated either. I think if we spelled that out before the meeting, it maybe relieves some of the stress that we would endure by 11 o'clock.
Well, I'm okay, add that to the agenda. We want to amend the agenda. How do you guys feel?
And time blocks?
Add 7B to the agenda, to time block,
Are we going to do time blocks tonight?
to discuss it.
Just to discuss it.
Sure.
You guys okay with that? Yeah? Fine. All right. Can I get a motion to now amend the agenda?
You need a motion?
Yes, to amend our agenda.
Amend the agenda and add time blocks.
Yes.
A second.
All right, all in favor? You got that, Cheryl? Okay. And going back to before, is anything else on the minutes? No? Can I get a motion to approve these minutes?
Approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Thank you. All right, next agenda item is text amendment. Robin, if you mind introducing
Sure.
your amendment here?
This memo is from me, but I didn't really draft any of this, so I don't know all of the history on it quite yet. But it's my understanding that in the future for land use plans, we don't have an amendment process. And the way our code reads right now, the land use plan as is incorporated into the code. But there's no actual amendment process laid out in the land use plan for how to amend that plan. What our code currently allows is for rezoning amendments, basically zoning text or map amendments in our code. So I was given a proposed text amendment that you guys, I believe, had seen last month, but didn't get to because of how long the meeting had run. And so what I was given, just so you know, this is shorter. What I sent you is shorter than the last one. I took out some redundancies and wordsmithed it a little bit, but the essence is still there. And so this, again, is just what I was given and revised, and you guys can tell me where you want to go with that.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to start to say, a few months ago, I think it was now, I was at a council meeting, and the topic of the land use plan amendment came up, and I heard George, our attorney, speak on behalf of this. And because I was being asked some questions while I was up there, giving update on what we're doing, letting know we're going over this. And it wasn't until I went back and looked at the video and listened to George. I listened 2 or 3 times, and the more he said, the more I listened, the more it made sense. In short, I'm in favor of what he was alluding to was the fact that we probably should not have a land use plan process for any of our community members who come up and ask us to change our land use plan. He said the land use plan should specifically be for the town, for us to help govern our choices and decisions as we go forward. So if a community member comes up and, let's say someone wants to develop, like we've seen before, and say, I want to change your land use plan, so I can come back and apply for a zoning change, for instance, to be consistent with your land use plan, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
They should only be asking us once, and we should be able to use our land use plan as a tool, obviously not as the Bible, but as a tool to look at what they're wanting to do, say a developer, would say a zoning request change, or a landowner with a zoning request change, and refer back to our plan as a tool, so it doesn't have to be, no, you can't change that zone because it's not in our plan. Period. It doesn't have to be that. It's maybe we see the zoning you want to change, it's not consistent with our plan, but after listening, it does make sense. And we can still go ahead and approve those changes, but the plan should be something that we designed, which we have. It's for us. If somebody comes forward and says, we think you should have an airport here, right? Well, that's not consistent with our plan, we agree, then we should go back and we should change the plan on our time, right? In our process, in our way, as either the planning board or council.
Don't we have to look at it every 5 years?
We have to look every, I think, 4 years? Or 5, maybe, I can't remember, is it 5, sorry. And that's true, and that's just for us to dust it off, right? Make sure it's still relevant, that is all it is.
I think that's when we ought to do it.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
If somebody comes in the door and asks for something, I don't think we should do it.
I agree. Well, no, when someone comes to the door and asks for a land use plan change, I don't think there should be, I agree, I don't think there should be a process
No.
for us. I think we should always listen and say, well, it's up to us and what we're gonna do. But we shouldn't give them a form, an application, and a fee to come request it.
Typically, those requests are so they can do something they want to do on land that's out there, that they're either gonna buy or they own already, for their gain, typically. And I don't think that we need to jump through hoops to do that.
I think that's what George was saying, right? Our attorney, I think that's, from what I can understand what he was saying, I agree with it. To say that, again, the plan is for us, it's not for a landowner to come in and request us to change our plan. Because again, the landowner might be looking at their little microcosm of their location and what interests them, not as the whole town. Perhaps. But still, the plan is for us. That's what separates it from, say, zoning.
Right. So with regards to the amendment process, would that be directed at us?
Well, what I'm thinking is, this is just what I'm thinking, I think is what George said, there should be no land use plan process at all.
Okay.
Just for,
No amendment process.
no amendment process, right? We can change, right now we can change, we can do it every 5 years, as required for us to at least evaluate it. We can make a change at any time, and there is no process for us to make a change, right? We could
Oh, so there
we
you
could
go.
make a change, we could right now say, listen, we think we should have an airport, right, or whatever, something. Well, let's ask council if it's okay to spend the time on that, you know, let's review the land use plan, we can do that anytime we want. Am I right, Robin?
Mhm. Yes, you can initiate a change at any point that you guys see fit. You do look at it every 5 years, and then you can change the plan at that point. And you do have extensive public comment while you're reviewing your land use plan as well. So if anyone did have concerns for their own property, they would have a period of time and a venue to share that with you guys at that point. I also just wanted to add real quick that if someone's asking for rezoning, one of the options given to us by the state legislator is that if their rezoning request doesn't match the land use plan, but you guys want to approve it, that you can amend the land use plan in the same motion. So that is an option.
Oh, okay.
And that would be for us to do, not for.
But I think at council
Right.
eventually. But
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
yes, but if someone requested a rezoning and it wasn't consistent with the land use plan, but you guys wanted to move forward, the recommendation would be to approve the rezoning request and update or amend the land use plan
Does it have to be
to be
amended?
consistent.
Can you not approve a rezoning request without amending your land use?
You can, but you would want it to be consistent with your land use plan. Because then what's the point of the land use plan?
So that's already in place, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing we need to do tonight on that.
Those are one of the options, the consistency statement options that the state gives municipalities.
Okay, Robin, just for my own clarification, can we also deny a zoning request because it's not consistent with the land use plan?
You can approve it because it is consistent, you can deny it because it's inconsistent. You can approve it if it's inconsistent and amend the land use plan along with it. And
Okay.
I'm still getting some clarification on this, but theoretically, you should also be able to deny something even if it's in accordance with your land use plan, if you're not ready to make that change. That's not one of the options that has been spelled out in some of the legislation, and so I have some questions with some experts to figure that out.
So then, based upon the information from the attorney, based upon the discussion here, what do we need to do in order to, diplomatically speaking, ball us up and throw it away?
Yeah, I don't think we need to do anything.
Well, you know, I just want to mention historically, you know, I think what started this, what precipitated this was an application that we did have, right? 6, 7, 8 months when it was. And it was an application to change our land use plan. And what was presented to us from a landowner was text that we should put into our land use plan, right? That's what they presented. Please put in this text in your land use plan. Please amend your map according to this. And it was new to us, right? And I don't think, we're like, wait a second, what's the process? Can they bring this forward? And well, then we had to have public meetings. And it turned into something that was similar to a zoning request change. And I think that's what kind of precipitated, wait a second, but why are we allowing this? And we had, you know, people in the audience asking us, how can they even do this? So I just think we should give that thought, right? Should that have been something that was not allowed in the beginning and we shouldn't allow again in the future? If we ball this up and say, there is no process. You want to come and ask for a change, you say public comments, or you come forth with a zoning request change.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? You can't come and ask us, I want an airport, I think it makes sense for the town to have something else, right? I think that's what we'd be saying, right? Because since then, we've said, and even from our, not the retreat, the advance, right, we talked about land use plan process, which is what we've been looking at and reviewing now for a long time. If we say, let's ball this up and throw it down, we just have to understand that all that momentum kind of comes to this decision, which I'm supportive. I think we should say we shouldn't have it, but
Simple's
that
better.
is a consequence.
You know, it simplifies everything. It's great, it makes it more straightforward.
And I think it's consistent with what other towns and villages are doing, right? I mean, I think that was actually one question I asked George. So how's everybody else doing it? And he said nobody else is doing it. You shouldn't be doing it. Well, he didn't say you shouldn't be. He just said it doesn't really make sense to do
And otherwise, we lose our pride.
that. Right.
And we have, you know, that's supposed to be our vision, and
It's the tail wagging the dog, I guess.
as long as we can change it if we need to, because, you know, something happens.
Right. Well, I think maybe it gives more strength to our plan,
Right.
right? If the plan is, kind of controlled and managed from council and planning board, that's more holistic view of the village as it is personal agendas of those coming in to ask us to change it.
So what do we need to do with this? Just nothing?
I want my motion that says that, we decided not to have a land use plan process.
Amendment process?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Amendment process.
I agree. I don't think citizens should be able to come up and say, we want to change your land use plan because we designed it and we wrote it, and it should be, they can say, I'd like to rezone this property, but I completely agree. I don't think they should be allowed to do that.
Okay.
I think we should just,
But then I'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All right. Any other discussion on it? Robin or Cheryl, either of you have comments about this?
So the motion was not to have a land use plan amendment process.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah, some jurisdictions do, some jurisdictions don't. That's whatever you guys do.
Okay. All right. All in favor of the motion? All right. Thank you very much. I think that was a smart move. All right. Moving on in our agenda. Old business, tree ordinance. Bledsoe, Dr. Ellis, you guys something to present on this?
yes. All right.
Our process.
First, I'd like to thank Robin. She's been tremendously helpful, and I'm so impressed with you. I'm telling you what. Dr. Ellis and I sat down with her, and she went through what we've done and gave us some guidance. And she's been, offering to help us in any way needed. What Dr. Ellis and I have been doing is we've been taking Indian Trail, Stallings, Marvin, and Robin suggested Charlotte, taking several different plans and just looking at ours to see what do we lack and just picking from different ones. And we've done that using, we've added, how to remove a heritage tree, how to mitigate planting, fee recoveries. I mean, we've added street tree planting requirements, just really some specific things that will help guide us. And we're even adding graphics to explain. And I drew these myself. I'm kidding. But, adding graphics to help so you can see when it says, it should not look like this and it should look like that. So, and we're adding additional glossary, additional explanations of different terms and what they mean. And we're working hard to make it something you can be proud of. So, but we're not near the completion of it because it takes a lot of time to go through all those and cherry pick, I think they say, what we need and what can make it better. And we're going to work with Robin very closely as far as keeping her updated on what we're doing, let her guide us as she sees that we needs doing.
Okay.
Any questions? I'd be glad to answer those for you if you have.
I was going to say, the one big thing I keep hearing back from council is make sure we have something in there regarding maintenance,
Yes,
right?
yes, there will be. Anything else? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate that. All right, next old business is sign ordinance.
Fun times with the sign ordinances. I've read the sign ordinance, and it's interesting. It's a standard sign ordinance. However, and I think you guys are aware, there was a Supreme Court case that changed kind of how you have to word it. In the premises, you can't have certain requirements for a sign based on the content of the sign, because that's a freedom of speech infringement. And so we have to write it differently. So it's based on zones and it's based on different criteria. So that's what we're going to be looking into. I know it's a priority for you guys and for the council. And so at this point, I have it on here, and you guys tell me kind of what is your time frame for this? What do you expect? How do you want to move forward? My first suggestion is to make it graphic so that people understand, because a lot of written text about dimensions don't always hit the mark the right way, and that ends up taking a lot of time on my part, answering phone calls and making sure that people understand.
Cheryl, didn't we spend months on this several years ago? Months?
Was anything passed after that process?
Oh, Lord. That was a whole rerun.
Okay.
Was that before or after this Supreme Court case?
Oh, before.
Yeah, so, okay.
Well, I would
Here we
think,
go, yeah.
well, I would think that, the priority would just be to bring it up to, consistent with the Supreme Court ruling. At the very minimum, do that, but, if there's anything that makes sense to, like you said, it doesn't mean we can't go through this a couple times, right? If you want to spend some time just to get it consistent with Supreme Court, and bring that back as soon as possible, that'd be good for the village, I think. And then to get some clarification, if that takes longer, that may not be as high of a priority, I wouldn't think, than at least getting it legal.
So Robin, does this mean that every town has to be in compliance with what the Supreme Court is?
Yes. I mean, that's the easy answer. No one's going out and policing it, but it opens you guys up for lawsuits. And there's now precedent-setting legislation. So if someone can prove that we denied a sign and it's based off of what's on it as opposed to other criteria, then there's already a precedent saying we're in the wrong.
But the law is about the content of the sign, so the wording of the sign. It never addressed the type of sign, so you have a sign that you put out there for like an advertising feather, on the side of the road, that's for advertising of a business, or is it towards a temporary sign, like a political sign, a temporary sign, or a banner for that matter? This is not a fixed sign.
Exactly. And so the case is based off of the fact that a church was denied a sign. And it was because churches have different guidelines. And so you just have to be very careful with your wording. If it's a certain type of sign in a business district, that's different. That's not based necessarily on content. It's certain signs of this type are allowed in this zone.
I would think that'd be the priority, so let's get it worded consistent, so we're not
Okay.
potentially held liable. And if you have time, before the packets are due to, help clarify the ordinance at all, after you read through it and bring forth changes that make more sense and help you, or anybody that wants a sign, I would say bring those. Otherwise, just let us know at that meeting that there's still maybe work to be done to be clarity, but at least what you're proposing to us would be legal.
Okay.
But that ruling was in regards to signs being placed on the side of a public roadway. We're not talking about the signs that go up at a building or for advertising. It was signs that were onto a public roadway or in the public right of way.
I think so. I don't remember all the details, so I can go back and.
But this part of the sign ordinance we wouldn't be changing it for like how a business puts up on a sign.
We're just making sure that the wording is clear and it's not content-based. And is my understanding that you guys want to see this in January then?
Yes, I would think so. You guys agree?
Or February,
If possible.
whenever you can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. January or February.
Right, because we won't have a meeting next month. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Was there anything else on sign ordinance?
I think we're good.
Okay. In that case, moving on to 7A updates. Good, Robin.
I guess the main update is me. I'm an update.
Welcome.
Do you guys have any specific questions for me? I know some of you I just met within the last hour or so.
Where'd you go to school?
Which time?
Each time?
I went to a state school in Pennsylvania, Millersville, for my undergrad. I have a master's degree from Towson in Maryland, and then my doctorate's from UNC Charlotte.
How long have you lived here?
10 years.
Oh, good. You're almost a local.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
You live in Charlotte?
I live in Matthews.
Okay.
I've been doing this for a while. I have pretty much an open door policy. There are some days where I'm going to be crazy, so if you walk in to talk to me and I have this panic look on my face, then maybe we'll schedule something for later. But just let me know if you guys have any questions and come.
So if we get to know the look, we'll just turn around and walk out and come back later.
That's fine. That means that we're safe, which is good. And then, moving forward, you guys, I'll just kind of go based off of how I'm feeling with you guys and how we work together on how much information you want. If you want me to take the lead on something, if you want me to back off and let you guys just support, then we'll move forward in that manner.
Good. But also, like I say, traditionally, we've talked a lot about our ordinances and how a lot of them need to be worked on, revamped, right? Or a lot of consistent, bring some consistency with inside the ordinance. We started taking action on some of that in the last year or so, right? Whether it's the tree save ordinance, right? We took action on water retention, right? For subdivisions as well, or we looked into that quite a bit. But we also rely on our planner to help us out and bring forth anything you see that you think we should look into. So if you going through this, as well as if you have any anybody come through the door with questions, right? Even if you deny it, if you just give us an update, that's part of the update on here is let us know what you've heard from people coming in, let us know what you've seen. Really just your opinion on where we're standing, whether it's the public's feel, what they're coming in asking for things, or what you're reading inside our ordinance and what might make more sense for us.
Okay.
So if you just bring those forth and, just like you did now with the sign ordinance, similar, you see something that makes sense, we appreciate
Sounds
that.
good. And along those lines, and Cheryl can probably speak more to this, is we just codified the ordinance. And so, for my reference, when you guys talk about section 3 or 4, I have no idea what you're talking about anymore because I only have the new one and they have all new numbers. And between talking with the last planner that you guys had here, the contract planner, and some notes and different things, I'm already creating a list of things that I want to look at more, or maybe I think is an inconsistency, but I need to look into it a little bit more. So I'm already tapped into that. And then Cheryl, if you want to talk about the codification.
At the last council meeting, they adopted the codified ordinance. The codified ordinance is online. It's a little different. It's not only a zoning and subdivision ordinance, it's things like the firearms ordinance, the smoking ordinance, the minimum housing standards. It's every ordinance we have in the book, although the biggest section is on land use. So we don't have as many copies as we used to. So the planning board chair has a copy, and the mayor has a copy, and staff has a copy. There's a few copies that you can check out if you want to use one for, a week or 3 weeks. Deb did check one out because she's working on the tree ordinance. And if you're working on a specific section of the ordinance, we can get you copies. But it is all online. The numbering is different, but otherwise, it's organized, I think, in some ways a little better than it was. But it's just a little different,
So we're not going to be able to get hard copies like we had before.
No, if you need one, if you want to check one out for, a couple
I
of
won't
weeks,
be checking it.
just come see me, yeah.
Yeah, I won't check it. If I can't get one.
He still has overdue fees at the library, so he's just taking flash copies online.
You're not supposed to know that.
I just don't want to sign your name in.
No, I just think if you're doing the work of the planning board and you'd like to have a copy of the ordinances, we ought to be able to have one. Because if we're going to go online, if we want to have them, we got to print it out, so we got to pay for the paper, we got to pay for the ink, we got to go do all that stuff. If it's printable.
All you have to do is ask me if you want a section or whatever. I'll be glad to print it for you.
Well, I came from a place where everybody had a book, and everything was in that book. So, I don't know why we went to this, I certainly don't agree with it.
But the whole codification is a requirement by state law. We were actually delinquent in getting there.
But it's not a requirement, we don't get the book, right? That's not a requirement. Why would we not get the book?
There's a lot of, if all of council gets it and all the planning board gets an old board of adjustment, all of a sudden we've got like 20 copies floating around, and in many times I don't think people are always looking at it. Maybe you read yours and that's great, and, you know, if you want me to check with the mayor and see if I can get you a copy, I can check with him, but just overall,
I don't wanna break the rules, but, you know, it just doesn't seem to make much sense to me.
Do we have Wi-Fi access here in the building? We do.
You do. There's a guest Wi-Fi, you don't even need a password.
So what we have in our old books is not relevant now, is that correct?
It's been renumbered and yeah. I mean, the gist of it is still there.
I think
Until
all
it's
the wording
changed.
is the same. Most of the wording is the
Most,
same.
yeah.
Some things have been put into tables.
I'd like you to check with the mayor and see if I can get a complete copy of everything.
In the meantime, if you do ask me a question about section 4, just give me at least a couple of minutes to find it.
I won't.
All right, any other updates, Robin?
I think that's it for
Okay.
now.
All right, on to 7B, time blocks. David?
Before I speak, can I ask Cheryl?
Yeah.
Cheryl, does council still have time blocks on their agendas?
They do, and, you know, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. I think for us, it would give us a tool to use to keep the meetings moving forward. I know we're all guilty sometimes of getting bogged down on certain topics, and I think it would eliminate that, and I really think it would put less pressure on any speakers, such as we had last month, coming in to know sort of how much time they do have, you know, set aside to speak.
Well, we ought to tell them.
And
You've got
that would be
22
on the
minutes.
agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when they're asked to come to speak, we should say, you need to limit this to 20 minutes, or 15 minutes, or an hour and a half, whatever the number is. We ought to tell them and expect them to stay within that time.
But if we ask a lot of questions and there's not enough dialogue, we're slowing them down, and that's, I think, what happens sometimes.
Well, then we need to be aware of the timeline.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's a good idea, the time blocks, I really do, because it gives you an idea of, you know, what to shoot for. I did tell the speaker he had 45 minutes to an hour max, and he said he was gonna stick to that. He got his program down to that, but we did ask a lot of questions, and the reason after he finished, because we asked questions during the presentation, and then afterward, it was all dialogue. So it wasn't just that they went a long time. It was that we were very interested in what he had to say, and we had a bunch of questions. So you're right. We need to figure out how not to do that if that's going to be an issue.
You know, I like that. You're right. Council's agenda has time blocks on the agenda for all their items. Is there any history why planning board doesn't have that on our agenda, or?
We never had it on anybody's agenda, and it was something that the previous mayor decided to add to the council agenda.
Maybe we ought not to do it.
Said what I was thinking.
If it came from him, I don't think we ought to do it.
Well, maybe we could have, you know, a rough guideline, like an hour presentation and 30 minutes of banter, so that we know to stop talking.
I'd rather see us
That could be our guideline.
say that our meetings will not go past 9 o'clock. I just don't know why we ever need to go more than 2 hours, honestly. I really don't.
Well, perhaps we could have, a column with estimated time blocks on there. So we can kind of see it, when we show up and we see the agenda, we could look at the agenda and go, do we realistically think this is gonna take 30 minutes? And we may want to, adjust our agenda accordingly with some time estimates on the side like the council has.
I guess the question that comes to my mind is, who is going to establish the time block? Who's going to do that? I don't know.
Right now, Cheryl, you put the estimated time blocks on the council's agenda, right?
Yeah, and people usually give me, they're a little more formal council, there's agenda item forms, and it has a suggested time there. And sometimes the mayor or I adjust it, yeah.
Okay. I think that worked fine for us. We guys think about doing that for now, at least to start with. Because of course, this, if we did this, it wouldn't apply till next year, till January's meeting anyhow. But if we start putting a column like in the council's agenda with estimated times, we could look at that, and if we think something's gonna go over, we could talk about that during the agenda approval, each meeting, and say, I think we should limit this discussion point to this much time, or this much time, as the next, you know what I mean? We can all agree to a time block at that point, per meeting, because, you know, I hate to say we have to get out here by 9, only to have a very important, you know, meeting that could potentially go over. You know, I'd like for us to have that flexibility to go over if it's necessary.
I think we've done that historically.
We have, yeah.
Reviewed the agenda and taken things off that we thought
Would make us go over, yeah.
I think it's a little hard to do this because sometimes you really don't know how long each subject is going to take you. But I mean, all we can do is kind of guesstimate it.
I think a lot of the times when we've adjusted the agenda where we haven't finished up on topics, has been because we have gotten bogged down on some of the things early on, and mid-meeting, we've said, let's table this due to time.
Right.
I think if we had a format, if we had something, you know, predetermined, that, you know, let's spend 20 minutes on this, and if it goes beyond 20 minutes, at that point, we say, okay, we see that we've got a lot more work to do on item number 5. Let's table item number 5 and then move on to number 6.
As opposed to trying to solve the whole thing over the next hour.
Yes.
Right. Well, I think it'd be, you know, I think having the guide on the right, the columns on the right might help us with that. You know, if it says we're estimated to get finished with, you know, item number 3 by 8 o'clock, and it's now 8:30, we're just getting to item 3. Right, that's gonna help us adjust as we go.
Okay. Want to try it?
Good.
We could try it. We could
Yeah.
implement it and just see if it helps.
You can try it. I just don't like the thing that you have to be done by 9 o'clock.
I know.
All we can do is try.
I don't really, this is probably not very popular, but I just really don't understand in our little town what takes past 9 o'clock for us to talk about on the planning board.
We just get excited. Everybody gets excited and talks and talks. You know what it is. We forget the time.
I guess some people do.
Well, you know what, and so I agree, I think this is important. I mean, we've council as well have meetings going until midnight or so.
Well, they didn't need to go to midnight either.
What? Council?
They didn't need to go to midnight.
Oh, I know. What do you think about getting a clock in this room? So not only us, but,
I mean, everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a watch, I don't know what o'clock it is.
well, when a speaker is up here and we say you have 45 minutes, then we can look up at the clock and we can say, you know, by the time that gets to, you know, 7:30, it should be done, we all agree with that. But that would alleviate that.
I think that's a great idea. They could have a visual cue
Yes.
going.
It's just like we do a presentation at a conference, right?
There's even a hole there you can put it.
There.
This reminds me of a story, I'm gonna digress, I never do that.
We're a year past 9, aren't we?
I never digress. Will Rogers, who was a humorist, was at a meeting, and a guy got up and he spoke, and spoke, and spoke, and it went on for a long time. And when he sat down, he looked at Will Rogers and he said, "I'm sorry I went on like I did, but I didn't have a watch." And Will Rogers said, "Yes, but there was a calendar behind you."
Well, I mean, I know we were asked for a map, but maybe we can get a clock next to that map on the wall, Cheryl?
This is great.
Did you want a map tonight?
Not tonight.
But I think a clock would be good. If we could, maybe ask the mayor if we can get a clock in here. You know, that would be
I'll
good.
check it.
You're right, we'll have watches and phones.
How about if we do it electronically, we have this great big clock on the screen.
These have a countdown too.
Yeah. I'm just kidding.
I'm just thinking, this is piling up.
All right, anything else on time blocks?
Welcome to Wesley Chapel.
I will need, you guys then to work with me a little bit more on the agenda to make sure we have the appropriate time blocks. Because things like rezonings or conditional zones or conditional uses could take longer or shorter. And so,
We'll start with January, just like, yeah, put some estimates on there, and then when we have our, review the agenda, the line item, that's when we'll talk about it. And we'll just say, everybody good with the times? If not, we'll adjust them on the fly. To start with. I watch council, because I got my agenda line item, for planning board, and I always see how the times are. They're always pretty far off, but it's strange how you watch it, it's kind of elastic, right? A couple will be over, then a couple will go really fast, and a couple. So it's interesting how that's used or not used, but I don't think we typically don't have as a large agenda as council, so it may work better for us.
If we do get a clock, can we get one that doesn't, where you don't hear it ticking?
We'll see what we can do.
I thought that would be a good
That's
idea to
the-
have the tick, tick, tick.
Oh, do you? Okay, well, then I'll defer to you guys.
Then we're always aware.
Good point.
I can put timers in each of your seats. Kitchen timer.
Of course, it might make us all fall asleep because we'll hear that.
And you can adjust it by remote control, right, can speed it up or slow it down. All right, anything else to discuss?
Can I ask a question, Cheryl? Did, now that Mr. Tucker's not the state senator, right? Is the annex still alive? Bill?
The de-annexation?
Yes.
I don't know. Is he out of office or is?
No, he,
December 1st, it's December 3rd.
He has a few days left.
No telling.
Just, I'm wondering, when he leaves office, does it die?
I don't know. Great question.
Unless somebody else picks up the banner. I think it does.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Take a second? All in favor? All right.
That
Thank you, everyone.
Good job.
concise meeting.
Did we make it? Is that
Whoa.
the earliest ever?
No, we've done it earlier than that before, but that's pretty good.
Kids just getting out of Cub Scouts right now.
There you go.